The interest in knowledge that made A Touch of Glass possible began with Art Redke, Clinton, Iowa, in about 1970 in his basement studio. Art was third generation in his family to work in stained glass, and Art worked in a major studio in Chicago and supervised the craftsmen who built stained glass for Al Capone's speakeasies. And by 1970, Art was one of only a few people who still did stained glass in the United States. He seemed to like me the first time that we met, and right away started showing me how to cut glass, work the lead, and solder. And each time that I came back to Art's, he passed on more skills and knowledge. Art arranged and encouraged me to go see John Dwyer at Superior Art Glass in Des Moines, Iowa, where I learned more advanced techniques, especially repair and restoration. The first studio location was in an upstairs room in our house on Willard Avenue. We made several small panels there and several nice lamps and a lot of sun catchers. Some of these we replaced in a shop in Colorado. The very first panel we did was with glass and lead that Art gave us. Linda designed it and I built it, and we put it in the bathroom of our house on Willard Avenue. It later moved to the bathroom of the Oglesby Street studio and then to our home in Towanda. And with a lot of encouragement and support from Linda, we opened the McClellan Street studio. We had a grand opening and invited family and friends. And the first panel we made there was the studio logo designed by Linda. We produced a lot of small hanging panels, but they didn't sell very fast, and pretty quickly our business shifted to larger, one-of-a-kind, custom commission work. We'd always liked the optical properties of clear bevel glass, and bought our first bevel machine while at the McClellan Street studio. Sometime around 1980, Morton Glassworks chose our studio to be a test studio for their products. Morton Glassworks was a stained glass tool manufacturer that invented some very innovative new tools for the industry. We invented a tool and a reinforcing material which Morton Glassworks carried in their product line. I decided pretty quickly that extra help was needed. Kathy Case was the first to come and work with me at A Touch of Glass, and then Libby Roper came along soon after. When Kathy graduated from ISU and left, Karen Wood came to work at the studio. We were starting to get larger and more complex projects, which presented a problem. So, after 10 years at the McClellan Street location, we needed to move to a larger building. We got half of a building in the One Normal Plaza property, which was the former Illinois Soldiers and Sailors Children's Home. This building location gave us twice the space. We were able to have a very nice large area for retail sales. We had a much larger work area that allowed us to have additional larger tables. We had room for our beveling equipment and additional cold glass working equipment. We even had a room for our newly acquired etching equipment. This studio had a lot of windows and a solarium, which provided a tremendous amount of light in the work area. Tara Kirkpatrick came to work at this studio and continued to work at A Touch of Glass for over 20 years. Doris Mobeck also started working at the One Normal Plaza studio. Mary Feaster worked for a short while in this studio while she attended ISU. After 10 years at this location, we moved across the street to a larger building. This location made a larger, nicer retail area possible. We also had a much larger and more spacious main work area. We were pleased to have Gloria Foster and then later Donna Herbert come to work at A Touch of Glass at the studio location. I always was intrigued by neon, and in this studio we were able to have our very own neon sign. In this studio, we had a separate room for our now 3 beveling machines. And we could make just about any handmade bevel that we needed, to include an old technique of notching the beveled edge called zipper cutting. Our beveling equipment made it possible for us to repair chipped crystal and glassware. This was a service that we started soon after we got our first bevel machine in McClellan Street studio. We repaired probably a few thousand pieces of glassware in over a 40-year period. We also produced etched glass pieces at A Touch of Glass. We utilized both hand cutting the stencils, and we also used on many occasions photoresist stencils. In this studio, we had a separate room that contained our recirculating blasting cabinet and also had a large walk-in area that we could do bigger projects in. Oftentimes, these etchings were part of a much larger project. We had 2 kilns at this studio, which allowed us to do some very interesting fused glass projects. We even designed and produced for a while a line of fused glass jewelry. Stained glass stepping stones were popular for a number of years, and we produced a few for people that wanted a one-of-a-kind stepping stone for their garden or porch. We also used this technique to produce a couple of nice tables and a countertop for a bathroom. We actually started painting on glass in the second studio, the One Normal Plaza studio. But when we moved to the Oglesby Street studio, we greatly increased our ability and our use of that technique. I was fortunate enough to take seminars with Albinus Elskis, one of the top glass painters in the world. Doris Mobeck took seminars with Peter McGrain, a well-known U.S. glass painter. Doris and I were fortunate enough to develop a great friendship with Richard Millard over the years. We used stained glass painting in many of our commission projects. It was especially useful to replace broken pieces of glass in restoration projects. From the very beginnings of A Touch of Glass, repair and restoration made up nearly half of all the work we did. We became expert at repairing antique stained glass lamps, and over the years restored literally hundreds of them. We always seemed to have at least one, if not many, stained glass lamps in the studio for repair. Because of our ability to make our own bevels, we also repaired and restored a lot of beveled windows. In January of 1979, A Touch of Glass began teaching classes. During that time, we taught both copper foil and lead channel basic classes, plus specialty classes in mosaic, beveled glass, etching glass, and fusing glass. During that time, we had over 620 classes taught, with a total of well over 3,200 students. It was a lot of fun and we enjoyed teaching classes. In the 43 years that A Touch of Glass was in operation, we were fortunate to have received recognition in many publications, mostly local, but also national and even international. We received considerable recognition for one of our more significant commissions. This was for the 4th Appellate Court building in Springfield, Illinois. It was designed by local landscape artist Harold Greger, and we were commissioned to turn that design into stained glass. That project was even included in an Illinois State University Friends of the Arts tour in 2007. The project that we received probably the most recognition for was the restoration of 20-some panels from Pembroke College, Oxford, England. They were installed in 2002 in the newly constructed Ames Library at Illinois Wesleyan University. We received not only considerable local recognition, but the project was featured in a national art glass publication. And our work was included also in a book written in England about the Pembroke College stained glass. In the 43 years of A Touch of Glass operations, we designed and crafted over 1,700 commissioned projects. Each project might have been one piece of art glass or 20. Our repairs and restorations numbered well over 7,000 individual pieces, with about 1,900 being panels, but over 2,000 being antique stained glass lamps. We repaired about 3,000 pieces of broken or chipped glassware, including Waterford, Lalique, Fostoria, and others. It was very gratifying to design, craft, and restore art glass pieces that would last not just decades, but centuries.